Hello, this is Jackie with Panama Relocation Tours. I'm back in Panama after my 2-week vacation in Mexico. It's so good to be back in Panama with nice cool weather, and it's so lush and green here in Panama. It's like walking into Technicolor when you get here. I can't wait for you to see it and see how beautiful it is. So I want to thank you so much for joining me for our Saturday live stream. In just a few minutes, I'll bring on our special guest to talk about emergency surgery that they had here in Panama. Meanwhile, we'd love to know where you're from. So if you type into the chat room where you're from, then it helps us know where everybody's at. We've got Oklahoma, Rhode Island, Phoenix, Texas, Canada, Las Vegas, Kentucky, Maryland, another California, people from everywhere. That's amazing. So in case this is your first time coming to the Panama Relocation Tours YouTube channel and our live stream, I want to give you just a little bit of background about who I am and Panama Relocation Tours. My name's Jackie Lang, and I moved to Panama in 2010 with my husband. And shortly after that, I started getting calls from friends that were interested in also exploring Panama and asked me to show them around. So it was no plan, but quite by mistake, I started Panama Relocation Tours in 2010. First tour was just 8 people for 7 days. And then we started getting other calls from people interested in seeing Panama. So the business was born back in 2010. To date, we've done about 175 6-day, 7-night relocation tours and helped thousands of people move to Panama. Also in 2020, we also started something called our Complete Panama Relocation Guide, which gives people all the information that they would get during the tour, but it's all online. So for people that are more, they're not the tour kind of people, they don't want to be around a lot of other people, the online guide is a great way for you to learn about all the things you need to know to move to Panama and not run into any problems. It also has our list of recommended service providers for immigration attorneys, insurance agents, real estate people, dog transport, private jets, all kinds of recommendations that we have. And these are all people that we know they've done a really great service. So those are 2 different ways. So one is a 6-day, 7-night relocation tour. And you can go to our website, PanamaRelocationTours.com, to get information about that, or the Complete Panama Relocation Guide. We also, in 2020, because after the whole COVID pandemic thing, when the country was shut down, we knew some people would probably feel more comfortable just doing a private tour. So in 2020, we started offering private tours of the most popular places to live here in Panama. So we offer private tours in Panama City, in the Coronado area, Bocas del Toro, the Aurora Peninsula, in David and Volcan, and Boquete, of course. So we have a lot of different ways to help you explore Panama. If you don't want to do it on your own, we have a lot of different ways to help you explore Panama and learn all the things you need to do. So one of the biggest concerns that people have when they move to Panama is healthcare. What's the quality of the healthcare like? Can I get health insurance if I have pre-existing conditions? So that's why I like to, we have several articles about health insurance and healthcare, but I also like to bring on people that have had a recent experience with the healthcare system here in Panama and also with health insurance here in Panama. So today I'm bringing on Billy and Kathy and their son, Zach. Let's click on. Here they are. Hi, everybody. I think it was it about a month ago or 2 months ago that Billy and Zach were at the gym and had a little accident. And I'll let you take it from there and explain what happened.
So Zach, he participates in a kids gym. It's a group of children that get together and they just do exercises and whatnot. And we had dropped him off, and he was on one of those hanging swings, and he swung, and the concrete that it was held up in broke as he was on a backswing. So he fell and face forward and hit his chin
right here. Yeah.
Oh,
I remember seeing the stitches on Facebook that you showed, and I thought, boy, you're lucky that it was not here or there. but it was underneath the
He
chin
had
that
a
it
little
wouldn't even
red
show.
under his lip from,
Yeah.
I guess, his teeth getting right there, but it didn't require stitches, but it was pretty gaped open under the chin.
Yeah.
So,
So,
yeah.
When the accident happened, where did you go? Did you go to one of the clinics here in Boquete, or did you head to the closest hospital, which would be Dolega?
Well, we had, we have a Panamanian friend, and I remember one time she had cut herself with a machete gardening. And so she was showing me she got stitches, and I said, "Where did you get the stitches?" And she told me about I didn't know that was a hospital in Dolega.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that that's what it was, but she said that there's an emergency room right there. And so that's where she went. So we knew about that place having, from her, and we went straight there. So
That's only about what, 10 or 15-minute drive from your house, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be about the same going to Boquete at the little clinic there versus here. But we don't know. Every time we go to Boquete and see that little clinic, the little emergency hospital or whatever, it always seems packed and there's never parking. So it just seemed more reasonable to go to Dolega.
and we knew the X-ray machine was out.
Yeah, I was just gonna say 50% of the time or more, the X-ray machine in the Boquete clinic doesn't work. So it was good that you went to the hospital, because they probably would have sent you to a hospital to get X-rays afterwards anyway. So Zach, did it hurt, Zach?
It hurt a lot.
It hurt a lot, yeah. Did they give you some shots in your chin before they did the stitches?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
It
was after hours, so when we arrived there, there was nobody else there. The clinic portion of it had actually closed.
The hospital was closed. It was just
only the emergency room was
only
open.
the emergency room.
Yeah, so we walked straight in, and he was carried right back to a stretcher and laid down, and they worked on him then and started stitching him up.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really easy process. At first it was a little intimidating because even though we're trying to pick up Spanish, I've been a bit lazy about it, like learning as I go. But it would have been so helpful to have known a little more, but they were really good with Google Translate, and it wasn't that difficult at all. And they were so helpful. Like I said, the hospital was closed, so they did the stitches. They walked us around to the hospital part because that's where the cashier, the caja is. So we had to pay 2 separate bills, one for the medication, the antibiotics, which was $1.05 for 10 days, way cheaper than if you get them in town. And then $2 for the emergency room visit stitches.
Yeah, the pharmacy at the hospitals is always the most affordable pharmacy. If you just go to a private pharmacy like Revia or Rocha, it would have probably cost 10 times more for the very same medication.
Just to note, you can't get the medication unless you're seen at the hospital.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
You can't go to your regular doctor and get the medication and go to the hospital to get it refilled.
No, you have to, it has to be something that was prescribed by a doctor there at the hospital. So it was $2 for the emergency room visit and less than $2 for the medications that you needed. Yeah.
And because the hospital was closed, the X-ray people weren't there. So they looked at him and it wasn't, they checked him and they didn't feel like it was critical. So they just said, come back tomorrow. So they gave us a referral to come back the next day for him to get X-rays. So we went the next day. That was a whole different story because now we were going to the regular hospital part. That was a little bit intimidating because that place is packed first thing in the morning. The door, but it was so cute because we're standing in this line trying to, I guess because it's a whole system that they do. You've got to go in one line. I guess they give you a piece of paper to go where you're supposed to go. It's like a little ticket system. So we're standing in the line, and one of the ladies, because it was the nurse from the ER, and then another lady, and we didn't know who she was, that had walked us around the night before to pay. Well, not the nurse, but the other lady saw us standing in line, and I guess we stick out like sore thumbs. So she came right up to us, and pulled us out of the line and started, taking the referral, and she was walking us around to where we needed to go,
Mhm.
making us not wait in the line. She was actually the cleaning lady. She knew everybody, and everybody loved her because, of course, she's carrying out their garbage and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
So she went to the x-ray department first, the radiology. They said, no, he needed to go see the odontologist, the dentist department first. So she went over there, she walked us over there, and she told them, because it was a big line for that department, and she told them that he was at the emergency room last night, that he was in pain and he needed to go first. They took him first, gave us the little referral to now go back to the radiology and do the kind that they wanted. Now, what we didn't know was that we needed our own CD or whatever for them
Yeah.
to put the thing on. This lady was so nice. She offered to go get it for us. But it was right next door was a little tienda was right
Yeah.
next to the hospital. So Billy was like, oh, no, I'll walk over there and get it. But she helped us speed through the process.
She handheld us all the way through.
Yeah, all the way through.
That's great. One of the things you notice here in Panama, so many Panamanians are very entrepreneurial. They know that some people are going to need that CD and they didn't come with one. So there's always somebody outside selling it. Or when you go to immigration, oh, you needed a copy of this, but you didn't bring that one. No problem. Somebody's right outside with a copy machine and you can make one real quick. So there's always somebody there to facilitate whatever needs to be done.
Right.
So you got the x-ray.
And then he went to go see the dentist. She looked at his teeth. She looked at the x-ray. He did have mainly it was thank goodness a baby tooth that was broken in half, and several chips. But she said that it wasn't anything, major. So, and she said that she didn't detect anything on the x-ray. So we came home and I had the disc and I called his dentist because he has braces. So we're all worried. That was his biggest fear, actually. He was like, oh, my teeth. And so I texted the dentist, messaged her and asked her, if I could drop off the disc, if they could take a look at it and see what we needed to do, where we needed to go from here on repairing any damaged teeth. So we did that. That afternoon, we actually got a call from the dentist at the hospital. And she said that, bones, jawbones and stuff aren't her specialty. Of course, she was looking at the teeth. She wanted to make sure. So she sent the scan to the Women and Children's Hospital in David and had a colleague look at the x-ray. And they said, yes, we see a fracture. So she said, come back tomorrow morning, because it was already later in the afternoon, that she was going to give us a referral to go to David, to the hospital, because that's where they had more experts in the field. So went back the next day, and first thing in the morning, to the Women and Children's Hospital.
The x-ray, before we left there, we had to pay for the x-rays. That was
It was $10 for them to do the x-ray at the hospital. And I gave him some more antibiotics or something. And it was like maybe a couple bucks for the medicine. So we did $12. So it was $3.05, then like around $12 plus $1 for the disc. And then we had to go the next day. We picked up our referral, went to she said, go to the emergency room at the Women and Children's Hospital. And so we went there and they wanted a better x-ray. So what was it?
They did a CAT scan.
They did a CAT scan. So they took them away to do the CAT scan. The only hard part about the whole situation, as far as all this was going on, was at the hospital in David, only one parent could be there. So, yeah,
we're still in the COVID phase. You have to be
so I let Billy do all the in case it was bloody or anything like that. I'm not good with that. So Billy and Zach were in there, and I had to wait outside in the heat. But
If you didn't have your paperwork showing that you had your vaccine, then they were going to do a test on you before you could stay there.
yeah,
So
Really?
for the second
For the-
person,
for the parent.
Yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
had my shot record in my pocket, so there wasn't any problem with that.
So they sent them to do the CAT scan, and already I'm thinking, oh, I wonder how much CAT scan is. Because I'm gonna add up the bill. But
You're at a big fancy hospital and a CAT scan, yeah. Can
But
be
I tell
more.
you what, Billy said that CAT scan machine looked brand new
Yeah, last time I had one, it was like $1,200 just to crawl in.
in the States. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
I had a CAT scan last year after I had COVID at Hospital Cherokee. So, and all the equipment looked brand new. Yeah, and it even had a calibration date on it, and it was within the last 30 days it had been calibrated. So it's good that they keep good equipment and that it's accurate.
Yes.
So,
The doctor looked at it and they found 3 fractures. They found a fracture each of the sides, where the jaw, and then the most concerning one was the one right under his
right here.
chin. So they said that they needed to call in a specialist to handle that. And what's so funny is, while the couple of days that this was going on, our neighbors across the street, they're Canal Zone Panamanians. Neither one of them are like Panamanian, but my neighbor Kathy is Chinese, but her family worked the canal, and she was born here, and all her family for a couple of generations. And then Mike, his parents were American, but he was born in the Canal Zone. So they know everybody, it seems like. So
Yeah.
he had sent me a couple of names of doctors that should be dealing with, maxillofacial, specialists and whatnot. And she says, you need to make sure he gets seen by one of these specialists.
Right.
Well, in the meantime, we're being routed through the public hospital system. And so Billy was in there with and he said, they're calling, it's going to be another hour or so because they're calling a specialist. And then he texted me the specialist's name, and I went back and looked at the text from Kathy, and guess what? Bing, bing, bing. It was one of the ones, because she said he
That's
worked
good.
at Hospital Cherokee,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, here, he's coming here.
When he came in, they assigned us 2 doctors, one for, just for being a kid doctor, and then the specialist. And of course, I'm over there wondering, how much is this going to cost? I know it's going to cost money. And,
Yeah.
they called him in. He says, look, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You're in a public hospital. I said, okay. Well, I still didn't understand. And,
Yeah.
So he says, look, especially it bothered me when he said, I get paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars by people for me to operate on. I said, well, that's my problem. I said,
Yeah.
And he said, the most I'm going to charge the hospital is $400. I said, what? He said, yeah, you're in public hospital. Don't worry about it. I said, okay. So at that point, I was relieved with some of that, because we don't have insurance.
Well, and that's an important thing to bring up, that if you would have gone to Hospital Cherokee, which is a private hospital, it would have been big bucks for the exact same surgery and the exact same surgeon. But if you go, all of the people that work at, all the doctors that work at the private hospitals, they also work at the public hospitals. The only difference is, you don't have to really pay anything because they're paid by Panama to be a doctor at the public hospital. So a good lesson for everybody in this story is that if you don't have insurance, or if you can't get insurance here in Panama, go to the public hospital, because then it's going to be a lot more affordable, and you're still going to get very good equipment. You're still going to get a very good doctor. They want you to have a really good experience.
And it was. So he said, technically, Zach, he was fine to not have to be admitted. But the doctor said that he was going to admit him because that's the only way that they can prioritize him
In the public system.
in the public system.
Ah, okay.
They sent him home. basically it's like, okay,
Whenever.
well, when they get to him, they'll get to him. So they admitted him. He said it could take a week to 10 days for the little titanium plate to come in.
Yeah.
That
So that day that you had the CAT scan is the day they admitted him?
they admitted him.
Yeah.
He went straight to upstairs to a hospital room, and he was admitted. And there again, only one parent could stay. So it kind of worked out because I told Billy we would take turns. And since he was there, so Billy left because they have everything there. I've heard people say, that the public hospital, they don't have sheets.
They don't feed you.
They don't feed you. They don't have pajamas. They don't have anything. The only thing they didn't have was a pillow and a TV. So Billy went across the street to Price Mart to get a pillow and get something to eat. And he came back and it was already, the hospital was closed. Well, nobody told us that fathers could only go. And I don't know about that anyways, because there was, I don't know, there's some kind of miscommunication. They wouldn't let Billy back in.
It wasn't Father's Day.
Yes, it was.
Oh, no.
Only the moms can stay up there except for one day a week, apparently.
Or-
We never
Did you-
figured out what day
Did
that
they?
was.
Did you go in, or did you just Zach? I assume you have a cell phone and you were communicating with your mom and dad through WhatsApp or phone calls.
Kathy was able to stay, but I wasn't. So I thought he said, I had some stuff in my hand to hand him so I could carry it upstairs. And he took it from me and put my name on it. And next thing it went into a shopping cart and he told me I can't go. And I'm like, where's my stuff?
Oh, no.
And so it went right straight up to him.
But they went right straight up to him. I had already a neighbor came and got me and brought me home because only one of us could stay, and I wanted to leave the car with Billy and he would come back the next day. But Billy couldn't stay either. He had to come home. So Zach was freaking out a little bit, but he had his phone. He had Google Translate. So it all worked out, and we ended up not spending any of the nights there. Zach was a champ, and he stayed on his own.
The phone was the only thing keeping him entertained.
The phone was the only thing keeping him entertained.
The phone was the only thing. You had some games or something on there you could play, Zach?
Zach, she's asking you.
Oh, would you ask?
Yeah. So were you in a private room, or were there other people in the room with you, Zach?
There were like 3 other people with me. There were 4 beds.
Uh-huh.
There was
And you
actually there was 5 beds, 2 across and 3 this way. The next morning when I went up to stay with him, there was 2 little boys that checked out that day and a baby. She was probably like 1.5 years in a little crib next to him. And for the next few days, it was just Zach and that little baby. And the baby's mama was there all the time. But I want to say probably the last 3 days that he was there, they finally brought a couple of other little boys in, and the little baby got checked out. So there was Zach and 2 other boys across from him.
Yeah. Zach, did any of the nurses or the doctors that you were working with, did they speak English? Did you have a hard time communicating or have to use Google Translate?
Most times I had to use Google Translate.
Mm-hmm.
They spoke a little English.
Yeah. But it works.
Now the facial surgeon, he spoke great English.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the doctors speak very good English, but the nurses maybe not so much.
And it's a learning hospital too.
Uh-huh.
So there's lots of
Teaching
a teaching hospital. Yeah, there's a lot of nurses around that aren't nurses yet too. So none of them spoke anything other than
Yeah.
But it was, and that's where even if I knew Spanish better, I probably still wouldn't have known a lot of the terms that they necessarily use.
Right.
But from my experience in the hospital, I really have gotten on to, like, for the last 90 something days, I've been on Duolingo, like jamming on learning Spanish.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling a lot more confident. But we were able to, some English, some Spanish. A couple of the nurses knew a few words, and so we would, try to chit chat and learn a couple of things. Everybody was really, really nice. I didn't throughout the whole time. Zach didn't eat the first couple of days. He could only do soft foods. And
I was going to ask, did they have him on a special diet with soft food?
They did.
Yeah.
And the doctor said he wasn't going to wire his jaws
Oh,
because
that's
of the nature of the thing. But so he could only have soft foods, and they kept bringing him smashed papaya, not his favorite to eat, and apple juice. So
And Jello.
yeah. Well, no, they didn't bring Jello at first. So the nurse, they sent in a dietitian, and she was like, well, what does he like? And I'm like, believe it or not, he likes beans. So if you have those small lentils and some rice, he can chew a little bit, it's fine. So he likes beans. He loves soup. And the soup's really good. So Zach enjoyed the soup. But the food wasn't bad. And, and they treated him great. We have no complaints. The only complaint we had, and this is so be aware, is like I said, Zach was fine, except for he was waiting on surgery. So he was mobile, but they did IVs, the IVs like you usually get. They are not good at IVs. They call it channeling.
There again, a learning hospital or teaching hospital.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was so bad because there was a room across from Zach's room. I called it the torture chamber because that's where they took all the kids to do something. And so all I heard was screaming, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it was horrible. But we finally had to tell them because they have this poor kid. He was a pincushion.
You look probably lots of bruises.
Yes.
In 5 days, they did 9 IV trips.
No, that was
Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
So we had to tell them, finally, we were like, you know what? He doesn't have to have that. He is drinking, so it's not like he needs the IV fluids. So we told them we don't want it anymore. Give him oral medication.
Yeah.
And, check that out because we don't want to do it anymore. No, we don't want him to do, until surgery.
It's like any hospital. You still have to stand up for yourself.
Yes.
Sometimes.
And so they didn't do it until it was time for surgery.
Were you allowed to bring him a pineapple smoothie or strawberry something? Could you bring food in? Smuggle it in?
That's where the crisscross of communication was, because the nurse told me that I could bring him some food that he might like, some soft food that he might like. But at the door, you had to hide it and smuggle it in because they didn't want you to bring anything in at the door to get into the hospital. So I had to I brought him a couple of frappes and.
You won't tell anybody.
Yeah, but I smuggled a few things in, but overall it was a really great experience. The surgery went well. And then
So how long was he in the hospital until they did the surgery?
He went in on a Wednesday night. He had the surgery on Friday. Was it a Friday morning or Thursday morning? It was a Thursday or Friday that they did.
It's not bad. Yeah.
And then, so, and of course, Zach's like, okay, can I leave the day after surgery? They wanted to keep him over the weekend. I think we got out Monday afternoon. And that was a different process as well because,
it was late.
But anybody moving here, everybody has a specific job. It's not like you go one place and everything's handled. So they gave a prescription. I had to go to the pharmacy. You give it to the pharmacy, but then they give you the thing that you have to go pay way over on the other side of the hospital. You have to go pay for it and then come back and get the medicine. So, that was a little bit confusing. But
we had a lady that grabbed a hold of us.
And walked us
everywhere we needed to go.
Yeah, walked us everywhere. And
the cleaning lady walked you everywhere?
It was a different lady.
It was a different lady. Yeah. Good.
But so we went to the cashier place after we did the medicine, and we wanted to like pay for everything. So we had to pay two things.
Let me put them.
Okay.
You know, it's a cash system here,
Right.
and they don't take credit cards at the hospital
Or debit.
or debit or nothing. And so I'm not knowing how much a hospital bill is going to be. So you can only get $1,000 a day out of the ATM here. And that's, you know, you got to do 4 ATM transactions to get $1,000.
Right. Yeah. With a foreign debit card, you can only get $250 each time.
Right. So here I am for a few days. I'm just trying to get as much money in my pocket. I go into the cashier with my pockets full of money because I don't know how much this is going to cost.
Yeah.
We were thinking 400 for the surgeon and guessing maybe about 500, 600 for the CAT scan, and then the 12 days total stay.
So we're like, well, we don't know.
We don't, you know.
$100 a day at least, probably.
Right?
Yeah.
I think that's not what I was doing.
We were hoping, you know, or maybe around 2,000. So, yeah, so we get to the cashier and we have to pay for the medicine first. And it was like $8.
$8.35.
Yeah, like $8.35.
That was for his entire stay.
Yeah.
And the medicine to go home. He had some more antibiotics, some cream, I think, or whatever.
And then he starts writing on a piece of paper and adding numbers at the top and bringing them down, finding
And
out.
the sweat's rolling off your head, Billy, right?
His computer it is. It's a sheet of paper and a pencil and just writing prices down all over the place. And then he says, "You pay this much." And I look down at it, I'm going, is that right? It was like $348.
$326.
$326, something like that. I'm like, that's it. Yes, you pay. I said, okay, I'll pay, but am I going to have another bill coming at me? Because
Yeah, we're like,
I'm stacked here with money here. I'm ready to pay it all right now. Yeah,
they said no, that was it.
that was it. Even after we walked out, we asked the lady again, "Are you sure we're not going to get any more bills?"
Yeah.
Because, you know, back home, even
You
if you
get the
got insurance,
anesthesiologist.
you still
you
got
got-
these bills that keep coming for months after.
Yeah. You get the anesthesiology bill a month later, and you get the room bill a month later, and all these other things.
surgeon bill, like you get 5 different bills in the US for a hospital stay. But no, they said it was like 324, 326, something like that. And that was it. We were like, let's hurry up before they change their mind.
We felt like we just stole something and we were trying to get out of the hospital before he called us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing that the price, if you cannot get insurance here, or if you don't have insurance, if you don't want to get insurance, a lot of people just self-insure here in Panama because it's so affordable. You go to a doctor, it's $15 to go see just a regular doctor. Specialist is about $40. And then listen to these prices, going to a public hospital and having surgery on your jaw and CAT scans and the whole shebang.
He's a specialist in that, and he's a plastic surgeon. So when he came in to do the surgery with the titanium plate, he saw the stitches that were done at the ER because he was going to go in through the mouth and do it. But when he unwrapped his jaw and saw the stitches, he was like, I can make that look better, and I'll just go through that wound and do it. So he went back through there and did the titanium plate and then stitched it up so pretty.
Yeah.
That's good. It's an amazing story.
And this was one of the reasons why we came to Panama. It was health insurance. It was a cost back home. I mean, we were paying over $20,000 a year for the 3 of us.
Yeah.
And that's just premiums. And it was like,
can you imagine what that surgery would have cost in the United States if you didn't have insurance?
$20,000, you would still owe money back home.
Yeah, it would have been probably $50,000 at least. So it's just amazing that it's a big plus for Panama that you can get really good health care, quality doctors at affordable prices. Now, if you would have gone to the private hospital for that very same surgery, you could probably add a zero to the end of that. So it would have still been like $3,500, which is a heck of a deal compared to what it would cost if you had done the same surgery in the United States. But because we have access to the public hospitals, you can save money by going there.
We're not saying we're not going to get insurance in the future, but we chose at this point in time to,
Yeah,
I mean, we're saving $20,000 a year just by moving here.
exactly. Yeah, 20,000 a year. And a lot of people, some people do get health insurance here. And there's plans like the Pan American Life. It's pretty affordable. If you're 60, 65 years old, it's going to be about $102 a month. I'm not sure what it is for children. I'm sure it's like $50 a month. But by the time you pay all that money, and you're probably not even going to use it. As if you're healthy, if you don't have a lot of pre-existing conditions and you're healthy, then you can just pay out of pocket, and it's going to be a lot cheaper than paying those monthly premiums.
Now, we've not been through the public. This was an emergency situation.
Right.
And I know things are a lot speedier from what I hear. If it's an emergency, we got routed straight through. I know from what I heard, you can go to we saw people checking in to go to the dentist at the public hospital and whatnot. I heard that it is, a lot longer of a wait. You could stay there all day waiting.
Right.
But we did not experience that. It was an emergency situation. We had referrals all the way through our process. So we were very fortunate there.
Right.
Yeah.
So Monique is asking a question of what happens if you don't have cash. Well, you need to know that if you go to a public hospital and the day that you're going to check out, you've got to go get cash. Right across the street, there's an ATM machine, always an ATM machine close by where you can use your debit card and you can get cash.
We had a friend that recently passed away that was in the hospital, and the wife didn't have the money to pay the hospital bill. And you're wondering what they want to do? They didn't release the body until she paid for it or signed the paperwork saying that she's going to be responsible for that bill. They refused to release the body.
Yeah. So they took a lump sum, and then she had to agree to make payments. But yeah, you've got to pay the bill.
Yeah. When I was in the hospital last year with COVID, when I first was admitted to the emergency room, and this was at the hospital Cherokee, they wanted, I think, $3,500 up front because this was a private hospital. So I put that on a credit card, and they said I'd be there 2 or 3 days. And then after 2 or 3 days, they said, well, you need to stay for 2 or 3 more days. So they wanted another $3,500, which you can use a credit card, at least at the private hospitals. Then after that, then there was another 2 or 3 days. So I was just, whipping out a credit card or two, because most of my credit cards are Panama credit cards, so they might have a $5,000 limit. Mm-hmm. So at the private hospitals, you can use a credit card, but at the public hospitals, it's going to be cash or cash, and that's both for your medications, and if you just go in for a doctor visit, or if you have to have emergency surgery.
But I will say that our friend that did pass away, he was at the public hospital. Uh-huh. He was in there probably 45 days.
Wow.
He had COVID.
In ICU on a ventilator.
Yes, in ICU on a ventilator and everything. And I wonder how much was it? I want to say it was, the total bill was like about $2,700.
Yeah.
For 45 days in ICU.
Yeah, in the ICU. So you guys hearing this, what the prices are like here in Panama? Just like Billy said, just coming to Panama, you can save $20,000 a year just on insurance costs. And not to mention the cost of savings on the electric bill and all kinds of other things that you're saving money on. So Zach, how do you feel now after the surgery? Do you still have any pain?
Not at all.
Not at all? And everything's working good? No problems chewing anymore? It's working. That's good. So I'm going to open it up for some questions in just a little bit from some people in the audience. If anybody has a question for the Houston family, put 3 question marks in front of your chat, and then I can show it. So Billy and Kathy and Zach, what advice do you have for anybody that's thinking about moving to Panama?
Get your book.
Yeah, get your book for sure.
Yeah, that's right. You guys didn't come on a tour. I believe you just got the online guide and you came on down.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We were down here. Once we got the book, we were here within like 4 months, and went back, got her retired. The day she retired, we packed up and flew. We landed in Panama the next day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have everything in there that you need. You got information on which immigration attorney to use. If you want to get insurance agents, help getting a car, how to find a rental. And you guys got a great house. And I think the house that you originally rented, you ended up buying it after you were here for a while, right? You gave it a test drive.
Oh, absolutely. That's why we knew it was a good one.
Yeah.
So
I done repaired everything that needed repaired. So,
yeah, that's good. And did you, if I remember right, didn't you ship some things down? Did you ship a container or half a container?
We shared a container with
yeah.
somebody else. They just happened to have a full container that was going out of Myrtle Beach, and we came out of North Carolina, which is only about 2 hours away. So we were able to jump on the end of it. So I brought down my smoker, which weighs about 3,500 pounds. And sent that over here. I had to have it.
Speaking of smoking, I know you smoke. I've seen your Facebook page. You smoke in lots of meats. Have you found that the cost of meat here is more affordable on most things?
Yes and no. Beef is much cheaper here than back home, but we only found that we would only eat mostly here a fillet. It sounds like that's being ritzy, but here a fillet is like $12 for a whole fillet, $12 to $20.
Yeah.
But if you're going to make a stew or something, the beef is really cheap. Chicken is reasonable. It tends to be $1.25 for what you get there. You can buy a whole chicken for $4 or $5. Pork, though, for me, where we were from, we have more hogs than we do people back home. So pork is a lot more expensive here to me. Pork is more expensive than beef here. So that's one thing that I have seen.
And the cuts are so different. So trying to find, the cut that he would usually smoke that would have, nice and fatty and, break down really well. It's been a little bit hard, but
we found a canteria in Los Algarrobos, and will cut me exactly what I want. He'll go back there and pull it and say, where do you want me to cut it? I tell him cut it right there, and so we can get it that way. And we've also got some from private people that grow the hogs themselves. Those are always the best. Got more fat.
Right. There is a farm over in Guadalajara. I need to send you some information about it, and you can buy, a cow or a pig or whatever, and they'll, and it's all organic, supposedly. They just all grass fed, and they'll prepare it the way you want it. So I'll send you some information about that, and they'll deliver to you.
Now ribs are cheaper here, though. The local ribs are cheaper than the American ribs.
But we eat good.
We eat good.
We eat good.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, keep that smoker going all the time.
And we love the vegetables here. That was one thing we noticed when we were gone for a month at the beach. They had plenty of fruit, but it just didn't seem like they had the vegetables like that we have here.
Coronado.
Yeah, the Houston family just got back recently you took a whole month off for a beach vacation. And then they live in the Boquete area. And so in the Boquete area, we do have, because so much of the vegetables are grown in Cherokee province. So they have better access to all kinds of vegetables, but we still have all kinds of papaya and pineapple and watermelon and everything else that's available here. So a question here, did Zach need to have any extra dental work done, or did it mess up his braces at all because of the accident?
The orthodontist was amazed at how well his mouth suffered that trauma. Is going to need some. Thank goodness the one broken tooth. It doesn't even. It's a baby tooth, and it doesn't need to be removed.
It doesn't hurt.
And it doesn't hurt. So we said, well, if it hurts, like if there's a root or something like that, but that's fine. The chips can be mended. The only issue, it didn't mess up his braces at all. The only issue is that it does appear that one of his front teeth right now, that it did damage the nerve. So it's turning a color. So there is going to be at least one replacement. It looks like. We'll see as time goes on. So, but no, it's amazing. He's very fortunate.
It could have been so much worse. You're really very lucky.
Because everything over here is concrete. There's no carpet in the country. We can't find any.
So he fell on tile floor. Usually they have those little mats, those little foam mats to do calisthenics, but they didn't have them out. So when he fell, it was on the concrete tile.
They had him out. It wasn't in that area.
Yeah, they had him out. It wasn't where he was.
So good question for both of you. How's the price of seafood? I don't know if you buy very much seafood, but like tuna is like $4 or $5 a pound.
Yeah, we got a guy, Manuel. He'll come through. We can call him. He'll come by the house. And usually 2 or 3 of us around here, when we do that, we'll say, hey, come out. We got 2 or 3 of us who want to buy some.
Some neighbors. He'll come out.
We'll get bluefin or yellowfin tuna.
Yeah, we get tuna.
Tuna for like $5 a pound.
4 to 5.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, when we were on vacation at the beach, that in Rio Hato, they've got a super, that Mercado place.
The big blue building.
Those langostinos were awesome
Yeah.
and very reasonable, very affordable. And to me, they were easier and cheaper to get there than they are here.
Yeah, they were like 5 or 6 to the pound, and they were like $7 a pound. So we that's very reasonable for those size shrimp,
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
huge.
I've seen some of the langostinos there. It's like a small lobster. It's really big and
It's
so
big,
good.
big again,
Okay. Someone asked, is there any problem bringing personal medications or supplements into Panama?
No, in fact, when I first got here, I went down to a local doctor here and got my prescriptions refilled. To see the doctor was $20, but when I got ready to go get my medications, it was super high. The medication here is very high for what I'm considering high. It was like almost $100 a month, and so I ended up calling my doctor back home, and I've had a good relationship with him. I've been with him for more than 20 years. And he was willing to do telemedicine with me because most of the stuff that I take is maintenance medicine. And so he didn't have a problem with that. And so I call him up once every 6 months. We do a face-to-face like this right here. And
he gets labs done that his doctor wants and sends it to him before the...
Email them to him the day before. And I do my blood pressure here, get my weight here. And he refills my prescriptions, and I have them sent to Amazon.com.
Amazon Pharmacy.
And for what it was costing me here was like $350 somewhere like that, almost $400. I'm paying $84 a month now for all of it. So
yeah, that's one of the things all the protests here in Panama have been at is about the extremely high cost of medications.
Really
I was just in Mexico in July, and I don't take any medications, but some people asked me to check on prices in Mexico, and things that might cost $30 here or $5 in Mexico. So why is it $30 in Panama?
There's $2 at the hospital, but I got to pay $40 downtown.
Yeah. So that's something you're going to have to watch out for if you're on medication is the cost of your medications. I always encourage people that if you're planning to move to Panama and if you take medications, and if you're especially if you're on a tight budget, it would be a good idea to either contact some of the pharmacies and find out, do they have your medicine? Because they may or may not. And also, what's it going to cost? You can set up a telemedicine with a doctor here in Panama for $35 at expathealthservices.com. And that doctor can let you know what medications are available and what the general price is going to be.
Now,
But
I think
you
with
know, you
him,
can go to one pharmacy and it's $10, and go to the pharmacy down the street and it's $18.
yeah,
And then go, you know, the same thing at the hospital pharmacy might be $9. So there's not one set price for medications. You need to understand that. But if you take a lot of medications, it can add up really fast. So having a relationship with a doctor that will do a prescription to Amazon pharmacy is a good idea.
I mean, there's money made in pharmacy here because there's one on every corner.
yes.
Right.
I mean, every corner.
Right. So here's a question for you about the accident. Did the gym offer to pay for any of the medical expenses, or did you let them know?
This was run. Well, she knew. She's the one that had to call us, freaking out from all the blood because apparently there was blood everywhere. It wasn't a gym like that you go to, and this is Panama. I don't know if they have like that kind of insurance or whatnot.
Probably not.
It was an accident. It's out of their house. They just have the kids over. They have
They're trying to do something for
room.
the gringo kids around here.
Yeah, for the
Right.
kids to get together without having to wear a mask at a real gym, and stuff. So no, they didn't offer, but they were very concerned. We didn't ask.
Accidents happen.
So
Yeah. Accidents happen.
I weren't brought up to sue everybody. Anyway.
No, and I mean you can't help when, if the concrete, it's the house somehow the
That's
thing
not
broke
under their
out.
control.
Yeah, it's out of their control.
So this is not a question that came up from somebody in the audience, but it's a good question for you, Zach. What do you think about living in Panama? I don't know. There's people that are planning to move here with their children, and I'm just wondering what you think about it, and what are maybe some things you miss about living in the United States.
It's nice. The main things I miss about living back in the U.S. is there's a lot more stuff to do back there.
You're stuck with us more, ain't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Have you made some Panamanian friends as well as some expat friends that are your age?
Not many, no.
But he does have a few. Our neighborhood is a pretty good mixture, but this area in general, it has a lot of older people. So we do live in a neighborhood that has children. So he does have some friends, but they are mostly gringo kids. There is one little Anthony that lives around the corner. His mom actually works at the dentist office that we go to. So she lives in the neighborhood, and he comes over, and he's Panamanian, and he can speak English as well. But two of the four kids that are just slightly older than him that he hangs out with, two of them have been here for a very long time and are fluent in Spanish as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So are you homeschooling Zach, or does he go to the international school or private or public school?
Well, that's funny. This is actually how we decided to come to Panama. Was during COVID, we got tired of all the government going, go to school, not go to school, 2 days this week, 2 days next week. We got tired of all of that game, so we looked for alternatives. And I checked into one of my alumni, Liberty University, and they had a Liberty University online academy, and they do K through 12th grade all the way up to
Great.
doctorate degree. And so we started that back in July of 2020. Yeah, 2020.
Yeah.
And within a month, we went, we don't have to stay here anymore.
He was doing good. He did well with online. Every child is different. He was doing so well on his own. And we were like, oh, we don't have to homeschool and us do it.
And so we're like, we don't have to stay here. We can do what we always wanted to do.
Exactly.
So within 2 months, we bought the book, and that's when we started our adventure by September. because
Yeah, and one of the really great things about those online education systems is the kids don't have to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning and be in the classroom by 7. And this is when you go to the bathroom. This is when you go to lunch. You just kind of go with your natural flow. Every single person has the best time to learn things and a best time to not even be trying to learn anything. So it's a lot more flexible.
He has a really well structured system, and he can work at his own pace, as long as he has what has to be done, but he can work ahead. So that's while we were doing our 2 week, and then during our move here, we had him 2 weeks ahead of schedule, 2 weeks ahead on his school, so that just in case anything came up and we were busy, days in the airport, whatnot, and it's wonderful that he can work ahead. His brother came to visit in February and stayed a month, and we wanted to go do things, so we're able to do that with the flexible schedule of his school. So
That's great.
I
Well,
saw a question. We didn't tell you where we live. We lived in Alto Boquete.
Yeah, I said you live in Boquete, but it is Alto Boquete, which is
We live in
the Breezes area. The Breezes name, very nice neighborhood, and you've got an amazing view also.
we're about how many kilometers from the checkpoint?
2 kilometers.
We're 2 kilometers before the checkpoint, leaving Boquete.
About a 10-minute drive to downtown Boquete.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's about 3 degrees warmer for us. It's perfect.
Yeah, I was, when we came in for our 2 week visit to get our temporary and all that, I was dead set on, I wanted to stay in Boquete so we didn't have to have a car, this and that. But we wanted also to find a place because we knew we were coming back relatively soon, and we wanted a place to be able to send our things. But we were having such a hard time finding a place, and I was glad, because a lot of the times I was like, dang, it's a little chilly here for me. I'm like, so we found a place that is the climate is just a little bit warmer, and it's perfect. We still don't have to run the AC, and it's beautiful. We love it.
Yeah, that's one of the amazing things about Panama is you can just pick your ideal temperature based on the elevation. If 3,500 feet in downtown Boquete, if that's too cold for you, try 2,500 feet at Breezes, and then it's just right. Yeah, it drops at 4. It makes it 4 degrees warmer, and if 3,500 in downtown Boquete is too hot for you, then go up to 4,500 feet. My house is at 4,600 feet.
Oh, wow.
So, but you
places up there that are cold.
And there's some days that I have to get my fireplace going because it's a little bit chilly. So, but it's wonderful that in this little bitty country that you can literally pick the perfect temperature for you just based on the elevation, but you really don't know what that is going to be. So we really encourage, just like you guys did, just rent at first to make sure you like the area, that you like the elevation, that you like the temperature before you go on into buying anything. So you did it all the right way, and with amazing results. So congratulations, Zach, on your successful surgery. And I'm glad that it didn't set back mom and dad too much financially. It's amazing on that price, that's for sure. And thank you so much for sharing your experience about the surgery.
And I would my biggest advice is just do it. Just come. It's wonderful. We don't regret it one bit. They have good coffee, Zach says.
They do have. They have very good coffee. Yeah, at the very least, just come down and check it out. And when you get here, you're either going to know, it depends on how much time, give it at least a couple of weeks. But you're going to know it's either a go or a no-go. Panama's not right for everybody, but for people that come and give it a chance and with an open mind that it doesn't have to be just like North America, which is maybe a good thing. then I think that you'll be pleasantly surprised at what a beautiful country it is and all the things it has to offer. And you can do like they did. You can live in the mountains and go to the beach for a month. And it's
Yep.
just a short drive. You don't even have to get on an airplane.
And he can still
So,
go to school.
Yep, and he can still go to school. If you got a kid, they can go to school anywhere if it's online.
yeah. It's amazing. Well, thanks again so much for sharing your experience with everybody. And I want to thank everybody who joined us for this live stream to learn about Zach's emergency surgery for his jaw. And it looks like everything's doing just fine right now. Next Saturday, we have a live stream that's about health insurance options. Also on Saturday at 5 o'clock, so be sure to join us then. Thanks again, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.